Hello everybody! Long time no see, you guys. I have been so busy, but also I have not been prioritizing my YouTube channel at all. And I have honestly really missed it. It has been quite a summer. I think last I talked to you was like 2 months ago when I was still in the throes of finals. I finished my spring semester strong, but it was one of the hardest semesters. I don't know what it was. I think not even like subject wise, but mentally I was just so checked out. I feel like because I was able to get through that semester, I am ready to go into my fall semester. I have gone through so many personal and mental changes since the last time I saw you guys. There was a moment where I felt the need to sell everything I owned on Facebook Marketplace, and I don't know if you recognize my bedroom from any of my last videos, but it is completely moved around. I used to have my shelves over in this corner, and I actually sold them and got rid of a ton of books. I talk about it all the time, but I read so avidly on my Kindle, and I think for me, buying physical books is just not productive when so often I end up reading books from the library or on my Kindle through Kindle Unlimited, which I absolutely love. So my book collection has significantly shrunk. I made a lot of money, which is very awesome. I ended up using that money to pay off some of my student loans, so it went to good use, and I feel much happier with my book collection. I can make a whole different video on that and where my physical TBR stands now, because that'd actually be really interesting. I don't actually know how many books I own now, but it's significantly less. I can also do a room tour if anyone would be interested in that. Anyways, those are my tiny little life updates. I think I would love to make a video talking about minimalism and trying to be more intentional with my spending and all of that. I think that'd be a super interesting video to make. But the reason I have you guys here today, as you can see by the title or thumbnail of the videos, I'm going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag, which I'm so excited about. I have all of my questions and answers here in my notebook. I love writing this stuff down. But before we go into the questions, I wanted to cover a few stats, and not like crazy stats. I didn't do a breakdown of what books I read from each genre or anything like that. I just wanted to talk about how many books I've read each month of the year up to June. I'm not going to be talking about July, although we are in July. The month of July technically fits into the second half of the year, so I'm just going to be talking about January through June. And yeah, in the first 6 months of 2025, I have read 28 books, which is pretty average for me. Given past years, I think I'm a little more ahead. I wanted to give you guys a little breakdown month by month of how much I read on average, and actually each month is so drastically different, so I thought it'd be interesting to share. So in January, I read 3 books. February, I read 7 books. March, I read 4 books. April, I read 5 books. May, I read 8 books. And June, I read 1 book. And that's literally it. So let's just go ahead and jump into the very first question, which is, what is the best book I have read so far this year? I ended up picking 2. I actually have quite a few favorite books, but I'm going to give you my top 2 as of right now. The first one being The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wong, which is the second book I read this year. Okay, I grabbed my computer so I could read you guys the synopsis of each of these books because I am not the best at summarizing things. It's just not my strength. I can read. There's that. The synopsis on Goodreads for The Sword of Kaigen says, a mother struggling to repress her violent past, a son struggling to grasp his violent future, a father blind to the danger that threatens them all. When the winds of war reach their peninsula, will the Matsuda family have the strength to defend their empire, or will they tear each other apart before the true enemies even reach their shores? High on a mountainside at the edge of the Kaiganese Empire live the most powerful warriors in the world, superhumans capable of raising the sea and wielding blades of ice. For hundreds of years, the fighters of the Kusanagi Peninsula have held the Empire's enemies at bay, earning their frozen spit of land the name the Sword of Kaigen. Born into Kusanagi's legendary Matsuda family, 14-year-old Mamoru has always known his purpose, to master his family's fighting techniques and defend his homeland. But when an outsider arrives and pulls back the curtain of Kaigen's alleged age of peace, Mamoru realizes that he might not have much time to become the fighter he was bred to be. Worse, the empire he was bred to defend may stand on a foundation of lies. Misaki told herself that she left the passions of her youth behind when she married into the Matsuda house. Determined to be a good housewife and mother, she hid away her sword along with everything from her days as a fighter in a faraway country. But with her growing son asking questions about the outside world, the threat of an impending invasion looming across the sea, and her frigid husband grating on her nerves, Misaki finds the fighter in her crawling its way back to the surface. You guys, when I say this book dragged me through the 7 stages of grief, I didn't know what to expect. This book is kind of long. I think it was around 600 pages, maybe 700. ML Wong is just so talented in her ability to create characters, and the world she built was so unique. I felt like I knew all of these characters personally, and especially Misaki, who is the mother in this story, because it follows a mother and a son. Watching her grow into herself again and find herself again after so long of, hiding who she truly is and who she's meant to be because of her husband and the traditional values that are shared on the Sword of Kaigen. It was so fantastic. The plot twists and the character growth from every single character was so well done. There's so much I could say about this book. I could write a whole paper on it, but I definitely need to get a physical copy of this book and read it again and annotate it, and oh god. Okay, the second book that I had up here was Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. I read the Hunger Games series for the very first time. I had seen the movies in theaters when they came out when I was younger, and obviously loved it like everyone else. And I bought the special editions of the Hunger Games series and I read them all. I think I read the first book last year and I read the second 2 this year. I did end up skipping The Ballad of the Songbirds and Snakes. I saw the movie and I did not care for the movie, and I did not think I would care for the book because I just don't care about President Snow at all. But Haymitch, on the other hand, this is a prequel to the Hunger Games series, if you guys did not know. And it was so emotional, like I knew it would be. I mean, this is not a spoiler because you know going into the book, it's the Hunger Games, and every character is going to die except for Haymitch. Suzanne Collins gets you attached to all of these characters, and then each of them are ripped away from you. So this was a really emotional one. I really liked it, and I cannot wait for the movie. But anyway, I'm not going to give a synopsis. I don't think there's much to be said about what the book is about, because if you have read the Hunger Games, seen it, it's just about Haymitch and his story. So the second question I have is the best sequel I have read this year. I am going to have to say A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. I read the first 2 books of this series like 2 years ago, and I ended up getting halfway through A Court of Wings and Ruin, and I was kind of like, I picked up Throne of Glass, wanted to read that before I finished the ACOTAR series, but then I was like, what am I doing? I just need to finish ACOTAR. So I ended up getting it from my library and I read it in 7 days. Again, because this is the 3rd book in a series, I don't want to give away any spoilers, so I'm not going to talk about it too much, but the found family in this book is unlike anything I've ever read. I think Sarah J. Maas has a true talent in writing, familial relationships. And one of the things I really loved about this book was seeing all 3 of the sisters, Elaine, Nesta, and Farah, finding comfort in one another during, all of the events that go on during this book. Families are just hard in general, and I think we all can relate to that. So watching these sisters kind of start to trust each other again, and I don't want to say too much once again, but best sequel, definitely A Court of Wings and Ruin. The third question is new releases you haven't read yet but want to. I have 2 books for this question. The first one is Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I actually want to go back and read the Hollywood series from the very beginning. I think the first book was The Seven Husbands, and then Daisy Jones, and then Malibu Rising, then Carrie Soto, which I've not read. And then I'll read Atmosphere, just because I want to see if there's any connections. I don't know if Atmosphere is a part of her Hollywood series, but I still, nonetheless, would love to reread all of those. If you guys didn't know, Daisy Jones is my favorite book. This will be the third time I will have reread it. So yeah, I would love to do that. Then the next one is, of course, none other than Onyx Storm. I am very intimidated to read this. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews, and I mean, there were a lot of mixed reviews for Iron Flame, and I ended up loving Iron Flame, but I don't know, I think I'll end up loving this. I know there's a crazy plot twist once again at the end of the book, so I think part of it too is knowing that there's a cliffhanger that I'm gonna have to wait probably a year or more for, so yeah, that's my hesitation with this one. I do definitely want to read it before the end of the year though. Question number 4 is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Before I filmed this, I actually went down a bit of a rabbit hole because I was like, I have no idea what releases I'm excited for. Or I didn't even know what books were coming out the second half of this year until I kind of looked and I was like, oh yeah, that's coming out. So the first one is Catabasis or Catabasis, I don't know how to pronounce it, I'm so sorry, by R.F. Kuang. This comes out in August, and I actually have not read an R.F. Kuang book as of right now. I really, really want to read the Poppy War trilogy, but I think Catabasis, I don't know, it sounds so intriguing. Let me go ahead and read a synopsis for each one of these books. 2 graduate students must set aside their rivalry and journey to hell to save their professor's soul, perhaps at the cost of their own. Alice Law has only ever had one goal: to become one of the brightest minds in the field of magic. She has sacrificed everything to make that a reality: her pride, her health, her love life, and most definitely her sanity. All to work with Professor Jacob Grimes at Cambridge, the greatest magician in the world, that is, until he dies in a magical accident that could possibly be her fault. Grimes is now in hell, and she's going in after him because his recommendation could hold her very future in his now incorporeal hands, and even death is not going to stop the pursuit of her dreams, nor will the fact that her rival, Peter Murdoch, has come to the same conclusion. That sounds so delicious. I need that immediately. I think R.F. Kuang has the potential to be one of my new favorite authors. All of her books sound like something I would devour and just absolutely love. So I'm really excited for this one. It sounds incredible. The second book I have on here is Alchemized by Sunlin Yu, and this used to be Manacled. It's a Draco Hermione fan fiction. Oh my gosh, it's 1,000 pages. Holy shit. This comes out in September. Once a promising alchemist, Elena Marino is now a prisoner of war and of her own mind. Her resistance friends and allies have been brutally murdered, her ability suppressed, and the world she knew destroyed. In the aftermath of a long war, Palladia's new ruling class of corrupt guild families and depraved necromancers whose vile undead creatures helped bring about their victory holds Helena captive. According to Resistance records, she was a healer of little... According to Resistance records, she was a healer of little importance with their ranks, but Helena has inexplicable memory loss of the months leading up to her capture, making her enemies wonder, is she truly as insignificant as she appears, or are her lost memories hiding some vital piece of the Resistance final gambit? To uncover the memories buried deep within her mind, Helena is sent to the High Reeve, one of the most powerful and ruthless necromancers in the New World. Oh my god, I can't read. Trapped on his crumbling estate, Helena's fight to protect her lost history and to preserve the last remaining shreds of her former self is just beginning, for her prison and captor have secrets of their own. Secrets Helena must unearth, whatever the cost. Oh, hell yeah. I'm sure they had to change a lot of things, you know, regarding the magic system and whatever, so it didn't resemble Harry Potter too much. I honestly want to read the unedited version of Manacled. I just think maybe I should do that. I don't know. We'll see. The next book is Alchemy of Secrets by Stephanie Garber, which comes out in October. I have read and loved the Caraval trilogy by Stephanie Garber. I have not yet read her Once Upon a Broken Heart series, but I have it and am willing to read it. I think I'm gonna wait until fall or winter. For me, that series seems like a great winter read, so we'll see. Alchemy of Secrets, I believe, is her first adult novel. Folklore 517, local legends and urban myths taught by a woman called the Professor. Most students believe the Professor's stories are just fiction, but Holland St. James has always been convinced that magic is real. When she tracks down a local legend named the Watchman, who can supposedly tell you when you'll die, the world finally makes sense, except that the Watchman tells her she will die at midnight tomorrow unless she finds an ancient object called the alchemical heart. Sorry, that's a really difficult word for me. Alchemical? Alchemical? Okay. With the clock ticking, Holland is pulled deeper into this magical world in the heart of Los Angeles and into the path of a magnetic stranger. Everything about him feels like a bad idea, but he promises Holland that her sister sent him to protect her. As they chase clues and stories that take them closer to the alchemical heart, Holland realizes everyone in this intoxicating new world is lying to her, even this stranger. And if she can't figure out whom to trust, not even the alchemical heart will save her. Okay, that's a really hard word to pronounce, but anyway. This seems like so much fun, and just knowing Stephanie Garber and how much I love her writing and her ability to tell a story, I'm going to absolutely love this. And especially knowing I love her YA books, even though I'm not a huge fan of YA novels, I think because this is an adult book, I am going to love it even more. So I have really high expectations for this book. I think Stephanie Garber is definitely one of my favorite authors, so no doubt I will purchase and read everything she publishes. The last book I have on this list is Fearful by Lauren Roberts. I have still not read Reckless or Fearless, which is a crime, because Powerless and Powerful are two of my favorite books, period, I think. And Fearful, I don't exactly know who this follows, but oh, okay. It's about Kit and Mara. I don't remember if Mara's in the first two books. She might be a newer character. She must be, because I don't recall that name, but maybe she's not. But anyway, it's just another novella. So question number 5 is, what is the biggest disappointment? I am going to have to say Ruthless Vows is the biggest disappointment of the year for me. I loved Divine Rivals when I read it. I think I read it in 2024. It was incredible, everything I would want in a romance novel or a romantasy. Ruthless Vows is one of the most boring books I've ever read. It had so much potential for me, and I put it off for so long because there were so many mixed reviews, and I was kind of angry at all the people that were saying, you know, this was so boring and whatever, because I think I was like, no, it can't be boring. I absolutely love Divine Rivals. But I honestly say Ruthless Vows ruined Divine Rivals for me a little bit, because it left me feeling really unsatisfied with like the whole duology. I don't know, I really like Rebecca Ross's writing, but with Ruthless Vows, I literally was just page after page like, please, can we just get this over with? And I feel like the ending and how everything wrapped up was just too easy, if that makes any sense. Obviously, because it's the last book in a duology, I'm not gonna give away any spoilers, but yeah, I just was really unsatisfied, and I honestly don't remember a single thing about the book. So there's that. The 6th question is, what is the biggest surprise? I love the bear light, but I can't do it with the flickering. I have 2, once again. The first one being God of Malice by Rena Kent. This was the first dark romance I've ever read, and I did not know what to expect, didn't know if I was gonna like it. I don't necessarily love spicy books. I mean, at the time I didn't, but now I think if the spice moves the plot along, I tend to enjoy it more, but I didn't know what to expect. And it is a very, very dark romance. God of Malice is a part of the Legacy of God series, which I have read the first 3 books, and I have 3 more to go. But God of Malice, to me, is still my favorite out of the 3 I've read. I love Killian and Glendon, and actually, once again, I can read you guys the synopsis. I caught the attention of a monster. I didn't ask for it. Didn't even see it coming. But the moment I do, it's too late. Killian Carson is a predator wrapped in sophisticated charm. He's cold-blooded, manipulative, and savage. The worst part is that no one sees his devil side. I do, and that will cost me everything. I run, but the thing about monsters, they always chase. Like, okay, that sounds so cringe, but I don't know, for some reason I really enjoyed it. I don't know, there's a part of me that may be sick and twisted and enjoys that kind of thing. I feel like dark romance is just perfect for horror lovers. As someone who likes darker content, it was meant to be. you know, now that I've read this is opening the floodgates for me to read hundreds of other dark romance books. I definitely want to read like Haunting Adeline and like the Never After series by Emily McIntyre. I'd love to read that. I'm just so excited to read all these different dark romance books, but it's not my main genre. So I don't know. We'll see what other dark romance books I end up reading this year. And the second one is Off to the Races by Elsie Silver. I never in a million years thought I would enjoy a cowboy romance. Never. But I read this on my road trip to visit my aunt in Texas, and perfect. I actually don't remember where this one was set, but let me once again read the synopsis because there's no way I am gonna be able to summarize this book. Keeping things professional with my employees has never been an issue until Billy waltzes onto my property. She's talented, feisty, and so damn tempting. We clash from the moment we meet, and I can't stop thinking about all the ways I could take her down a peg. I can't stop thinking about her, period. And in a small town on an even smaller farm, it's hard to keep my distance. Billy is the whole package, whip smart with a body I fantasize about, and quite possibly the only woman who can save this business and me. She drives me crazy, but the more time we spend together, the more I crave her. Her lips, her trust, her heart, I want it all. But at what cost? Because suddenly, I don't just want to win races, I want to win the girl. So the main guy in this book, gosh, what was his name? I literally can't remember. Vaughn. The MMC Vaughn owns this ranch where, you know, it kind of has a bad reputation because of his grandfather who had like dicey interactions, or I don't know, something happened where people were kind of looking down on him. I think on the business side of things, I can't remember what it was, but anyway, so Vaughn owns this ranch and he's trying to fix its reputation, and he ends up hiring Billy to be one of the horse trainers. And she is such a feisty, sassy MC, and her horse, Double Diablo, or Dee, is one of the cutest characters I've ever read. So I was just so like giddy and happy when I read this, and I ended up reading the second book, or the like novella in between this and the second book. And I didn't care for that one as much, but just because it was a novella. I think if it was a full-on book, I would have liked it a little bit more, but I am definitely going to be continuing with this series, and I would love to read tons more by Elsie Silver. I think she is such a cute writer, and yeah, I really liked this one. The seventh question is, who is your new favorite author? I have two because I couldn't pick. I think the first one I would say is M.L. Wong. The only book I've read by her is A Sword of Kaigen, but because it is now one of my favorite books, I just think she earns that spot, definitely. I love her writing. As I said before, I love her characters. I love her ability to tell a story. Everything about that book is perfection to me, so. And then the second author I have is Rachel Gillig, which at the time of filming this, I actually just finished The Night in the Moth. I so badly wanted to put it as like one of my favorite books of this year, but it's July, so I don't know, and I guess it's not fair that I'm putting her as one of my favorite authors, but I just had to throw it in even though I did read this book in July, because this book was so fun. And I actually am realizing I used this book for another prompt even though I did read it in July. So I think I read A Court of Wings and Ruin in July too, so I guess I'm including some books from July, but just whatever, it's my video, I can do what I want. I love Rachel Gillig and her writing. It's so, I think The Night in the Moth is her first adult book, but I don't know. Yeah, so Rachel Gillig is definitely gonna be one of my new favorite authors, I'm sure. I think the One Dark Window duology, I can't remember what it's called. Like, I don't know what the duology is called, but One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns, I think that will solidify her title as a new favorite author if I enjoy those, but I'm sure I will. I know those have such high praise. We're getting close to the end, kind of. Question number 8 is newest fictional crush. I honestly don't crush on a whole lot of fictional men. It's kind of hard for me to picture characters, but I think based on personality and just energy, my newest fictional crush from this year, my top fictional crush from this year, is Julian Hates from Daisy Hates. I read the first and second book this year, and he is just one of a kind. And I don't want to be that person, but I do kind of wish him and Magnolia ended up together. just because I think he is so much hotter. I personally think his personality is so much harder than BJ. I personally don't really care for BJ. I could fight that man. Super unpopular opinion. But I think Julian treated her way better in a lot of ways. He definitely has his flaws, don't get me wrong. But his flaws to me are just attractive. More attractive than BJ, who's just a pain in the ass. But anyway. Question number 9 is, who is your newest favorite character? Easy. Easy, easy, easy. I told you guys The Night and the Moth was gonna be featured in one of these later questions. I'm definitely gonna have to say the gargoyle from The Night and the Moth. He's loving and caring and just really hilarious without meaning to be. There were so many scenes in The Night and the Moth where he just made me crack up. In the books, I never expected The Night and the Moth to have some comedic relief, and he just really surprised me. And I just want the best for him, honestly. There's a scene where, this is not a spoiler, but a little girl gives him a flower crown, and I just, picturing that could bring tears to my eyes. So I don't want to talk about it anymore. I have another character I want to mention, and that is Misaki from The Sword of Kaigen. She is such a baddie. Oh my gosh. She could also go for fictional crush because she is so bad, like in the best way. Her character growth and even like learning about her past and all of the things she went through and how powerful she is. So attractive, so inspiring. Question number 10 is a book that made me cry. I don't cry to books ever, ever, ever. And if I do, it's like a little tear. I get very emotional with books, but I don't know why I am not able to cry when I read. It is just something I've never been able to do. I don't know. I'm not much of a crier in general. Like, it depends on the week or the month or what's going on in my life, but generally, like, I don't cry that often. Binding 13 was so close to getting several tears out of my eyes. I definitely cried after I finished that book. I'm not gonna go too in depth because I do have a whole vlog of reading Binding 13. I read Binding 13 for a video I made where I had booktubers choose which books I read, and I really loved it. And I really need to continue the series. Nothing I can't handle, but it is kind of a drag to read, especially given the fact that, like, for most of the year, I'm not usually in a good headspace to read books like that. So yeah, that one did make me very emotional, and I did let out a few tears by the end of that one. So there's that. Question 11, a book that made me happy. And this is actually kind of ironic because this book is not a happy book, but I think it gave me everything I want in a book, and that is Annie Bot by Sierra Greer. This book was such a nice surprise. First of all, super short, super easy to read and digest. I don't know what it is about this type of horror book where it feels so close to reality, and I don't necessarily love stories about AI or, you know, robots, but that, you know, it could be our future very soon here. There were a lot of aspects of this book where my heart felt so full. I could read a million versions of this story. This was so fascinating, and I've talked about this book several times on my channel, even before I read it, but I will read a little bit of the synopsis. Annie Bot was created to be the perfect girlfriend for her human owner, Doug. Designed to satisfy his emotional and physical needs, she has dinner ready for him every night, wears the cute outfits he orders for her, and adjusts her libido to suit his mood. True, she's not the greatest at keeping Doug's place spotless, but she's trying to please him. She's trying hard. She's learning, too. So this one is definitely dark, and I understand why a lot of people did not like this, because I'm sure it made them angry, and, you know, Doug is definitely a very unlikable character, but, you know, I was satisfied with the ending, and horror novels like this, or just general fiction like this book, is literally why I read. So this just, yeah, made me very happy. Question number 12 is, what is the most beautiful book cover or design I own? I have two. Common theme, I know. The first one is When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. I think this book is so pretty, and this one has the sprayed edges. I actually got this from Half Price Books, but the end papers are also so nice. I think this cover is so beautiful. I've not read this book yet, but I am eager to read it for sure. You guys know I love a chunky fantasy book, and this one is serving thick. The next one is Heavenly Bodies by Imani Iru. This cover is perfection, and I have purple sprayed edges on this one, which I don't really care for like solid colored sprayed edges, but these ones are really pretty. These ones are fine, but just the inside of the book too. I don't know if this is signed or not. I thought it was for some reason. It's not. Okay. Anyway, this book is just stunning. And I've also not read this one yet, but yeah, there's Heavenly Bodies. The last question, question number 13, is what books am I going to prioritize reading before the end of this year? I have 4 different answers here, most of which are series. I am prioritizing getting through all of the series I'm in the middle of. The Powerless series being number 1. I have Reckless and Fearless to finish. I have completely annotated Powerless and Powerful. Both of these books are so good. Oh, I would love to reread these too, honestly. I also would like to finish the last book in the Magnolia Park series, which is Into the Dark. Well, actually, I guess it's not the last one because we have one more Daisy Hates book, but I just have Into the Dark to read. That's just the last one, but I don't own it anymore, so I'm just waiting to get it from the library, or maybe I'll buy it on Kindle, who knows. Then I would like to finish the Legacy of God series by Rena Kent. I think that one is definitely on my high priority because I'd like to read some other dark romance series, and I just want to get that one finished so I don't have, you know, one dark romance book series unfinished. And then the last one I want to prioritize is the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. I have the last 4 books to read, which are all chunkers. I don't know if I'll finish it this year, but I definitely want to read Queen of Shadows before the year's over. And then as for Tower of Dawn and Empire of Storms, I don't know. Those are all of the questions that we had to go through today. And the last thing I want to share with you guys is I made a 25 books to read in 2025 video. I ended up watching that video and tallying read and not read from that video. And the sad reality is that I've only read 5 of the books from that video. 20%. I have read 20% of those books, which is kind of unfortunate, but not as bad as I would have expected. Actually, no, I expect better for myself, to be honest. That is all I have for you guys regarding the mid-year book freakout tag, but some videos I am hoping to get out within the next few months is maybe an updated physical TBR video where I show you the 20 to 30 books I actually still own that I need to read, compared to, you know, my last physical TBR video, which I think I had like 80 books. I would love to read every physical book I own, but the reality is that I don't read a ton of physical books anymore, getting through them slowly but surely. So there's that. And I would also like to do a sit-down video where I talk to you guys about, you know, living more minimally and being more intentional with what I'm purchasing and the things I'm spending my money on, and you know, spending my money on experiences versus objects. Like, I don't know, it's a whole thing. Thank you guys so much for watching and giving me your support by liking or sharing this video or giving a comment down below. If you have watched all the way to the end, why don't you leave a moth emoji? Do we even have a moth emoji actually? If there's no moth emoji, leave a butterfly emoji, because that'll do. I will hopefully see you soon. No promises because I'm very inconsistent. I love you guys so much, and I will see you when I see ya.